In this video, I'm going to be walking you through some additional detail in each of the major steps in building out the PM2 Executive Suite. Now, if you haven't watched the overview video, I strongly recommend you loop back and watch that first. So let's step through some of the key activities. So, for example, the story begins with capturing your existing strategy. So, the methodology behind that, often organizations come to us with an undocumented strategy. It's in the leadership team's head, and the first step is to help capture that. But in other cases, we can use many of the existing tools you're familiar with, things like SWOT, PESTLE, 5 Forces, in order to capture these ideas which may be documented or undocumented in a framework that you're comfortable with. These frameworks are nice because they are catch-alls. They make sure that you ask yourself a myriad of the right questions. But those, combined with what leadership thinks about, plus the existing financial and business plans and leadership's intelligence, allow us to take the next step in capturing your strategy. Now, these tools help you surface the strategic issues. These tools are a selection of tools of many that help you document the strategy. Some organizations are fans of the business canvas, others EOS, others the one-page plan, and so forth. We're flexible. You can use whichever framework you would like. The net is we need to capture your strategy based on these things on the left. So that's the strategy discovery phase. From there, we can begin to build your strategy map. Now, the strategy map takes that input, whether it's from that research, from existing strategy, from leadership, and we're going to literally draw a picture of that. And the picture could be a traditional strategy map with the 4 perspectives, or a sustainability strategy map, which adds into the 4 perspectives the additional 2 perspectives of society and environment. And again, there are additional YouTubes that go into that detail. The output of this is a strategy map that's appropriate for what your audience requires. Now, there are typically 6 types of strategy maps: valuation, navigation, compensation, calibration, communication, and regulation. Again, there's a videotape out there on YouTube that goes into more detail on each of those 6. But the net is there are different ways of viewing your organization, and depending on which stakeholder has asked you to build this strategy map, different views are appropriate. From there, we're going to follow this path down to what we call dashboard, but it's really strategy execution. What we should be able to do is take that strategy map along with an operational team, a cross-functional team, typically of the next level down or the heir apparent to the executive team, along with a knowledge of your core processes. And through a facilitator process that we call the Ontology, we should be able to assess how well your processes are helping you achieve your strategic objectives. Now, if we take this and combine it with KPIs, we can eventually build you a more detailed scorecard. But if we take that, combine it with your KPIs, plus your portfolio of existing projects, we can begin to see whether our projects are in line with the strategic gaps. In most organizations, about 66% of the projects are misaligned. In other words, they're great projects, but they appeal to things which aren't our current strategy, or maybe are appropriate to last year's strategy. We've achieved the success, and we should be setting those aside. So through this, we take the activity from the strategic level down to the operational level. Now, we can go in many directions from there, but let's take those KPIs and now go down to the employee level. So there are a couple of key things that organizations need to do, one of which is around engaging employees. So to engage employees, what we need to do is add that strategic performance analysis we've done, along with the detailed metrics that we developed, and begin to play with people's intrinsic motivators, help people understand their specific purpose, help them get better at those activities, help them see progress that they and their teams are making, provide them with the grant of authority to be autonomous in their decision making, and then finally give them a platform to share that with their teammates. These things, the intrinsic motivators, along with the analysis and KPIs, allow us to create team and individual scorecards. Now, those team and individual scorecards can be used for different purposes. I can use those to set up what's now called OKRs, objectives and key results, or I can use them to help enable self-managed work teams. So self-managed work teams need several things, and self-managed work teams are what it sounds like. They're teams that don't need a boss in the center to tell them what to do. So we take the strategy map, that process analysis, along with those objectives and key results for the employee engagement work. But we need to support that with a culture of trust and coaching that allow these teams to work autonomously. Now, the benefit of this is they can now make decisions consistent with leadership without leadership needing to get involved. So all of which is a component to helping the employees be part of strategy. And obviously the next step is to link those things to rewards and compensation. And of course, part of that is the financial world. So if we take that strategy map and the balanced scorecard, and this work we've done at the employee level, we can begin doing business and financial plans. Now, those plans, again, you can use those raw materials, what we learned from risk, which we'll talk about in a minute, the scorecard, the detailed analysis, the project alignment, and through whatever framework you would like, whether you prefer to do scenario planning, driver-based planning, or agile planning, we can build your business plan based on this information. Now, what's interesting about that is in this world, if my risks shift, my performance shifts, my process capability shifts, my project portfolio shifts, this machinery will automatically refresh your budget and keep it current with your current thinking. So many of our clients, for example, have quarterly meetings on strategy, where every quarter we refresh our view of those objectives and their priorities so that with agility we can keep tracking what's happening in the world. Finally, we should talk about risk, because again, risk is based on strategy. A simple example, if you have a strategy about achieving growth through new customers, then a bunch of risks emerge related to new customers. If on the other hand, your growth is going to come through share of wallet from existing customers, I would have different risks. So what we should be able to do is take that strategy along with some form of risk breakdown structure, whether it's COSO, ISO 31000, whatever it might be, and the board and leadership's knowledge, and be able to do sort of a top-down assessment of risk. Now that top-down assessment of risk allows us to see risk from the leadership's perspective. The risk register, of course, looks at risk from the employee's perspective or operational. And so one step we can do is compare these two things through what we call a risk scorecard to make sure that we're aligned from the bottom up and top down. What we can also do is add in key risk indicators, control effectiveness indicators, and speed of onset indicators around each risk so that we can now begin to look at a dynamic risk scorecard. No longer is an annual audit looking at lag measures or what's already happened, but give people proactive dashboards that allow them to understand the repercussions of risk in any performance decision they make moment to moment, day to day. So that's a sneak look under the hood at some of the methodologies we use inside the PM2 Enterprise Suite. Now later on, we'll talk about how you can cherry pick what's appropriate for your business to move forward.